Tom plays a forest and passes. Sam plays a godless shrine, casts carrion feeder, and passes. Extra plays a tapped godless shrine and passes. John plays a forest, casts soul ring, and passes. Tom plays a forest, casts Gruul signet, and passes. Sam plays an isolated chapel, attacks John for 1 damage, and passes. Extra plays a tapped hallowed fountain, and passes. John plays a forest, casts the Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia, and passes. Tom plays a forest, casts a ranger's path, finding stomping around in a forest, before passing the turn. Sam plays a swamp, casts Phyrexian Ravager, triggering his effect, goes to combat, attacking Tom for 1 damage, before passing the turn. Extra plays a Sea of Clouds, casts Etali, Resplendent Cathar, and passes. John casts his commander, Polukranos, followed by Cultivate, finding a forest and plains. After that, he plays said plains and passes. Tom casts Wood Elves, finding a forest, followed by Explosive Vegetation, finding 2 mountains, before passing the turn. Sam plays a command tower, casts his commander, Brimaz, Blight of Oreskos, attacks Tom with Rager, dealing 2 damage, before passing the turn. Extra plays a plains, attacks Tom with Etali, triggering her effect to make 3 attacking soldiers, and his commander to draw and discard a card. Sam and John both block a soldier, while Tom takes 5 damage. After combat, Extra casts Talisman of Progress, followed by Acclaimed Contender, finding Hakken, Stormglad Scourge, before passing the turn. John casts Branching Evolution, followed by Rampant Rejuvenator, and passes. Tom plays a forest, casts Garruk's Uprising, followed by his commander, Etali, Primal Conqueror, who finds Beast Whisper, Arcane Signet, Sir Conrad, and Steelbane Hydra. He draws 2 cards from Uprising, and each opponent loses 1 to Conrad. After that, he passes a turn. Sam plays a plains, casts Splatter Goblin, triggering Brimaz, and passes. Extra plays a swamp, casts his commander, Sidar Jabari of Zalfir, and passes. John casts Voracious Hydra for X equals 6, doubles its counters, and passes. Tom casts Soul of the Harvest, triggering Whisper and Uprising, followed by Goblin and Narcomancer, triggering Whisper and Soul. He plays a forest, casts Elvish Mystic, triggering Whisper, and is met with a Swords to Plowshares on Soul of Harvest before it is able to trigger. Tom then casts Nature's Lore, finding a forest, followed by Frontier Siege on Khans. He goes to main phase 2, makes 2 mana with Siege, casts Farseek, finding a mountain, and passes. End of turn, Sam casts Deadly Dispute, sacrificing the Incubator, before continuing to his turn. Sam plays an Inkmoth Nexus, casts Fleshless Gladiator, triggering Brimaz, followed by Core Prowler, also triggering Brimaz, before passing the turn. Extra goes to combat and attacks Tom with his commander, triggering his and Etali's ability. All 3 block a soldier, and Tom takes 4 damage. After damage, Conrad triggers 3 times, dealing each opponent 3 damage. In his second main phase, Extra plays a swamp, casts Hakken from his graveyard, and passes. John plays a forest, casts Ram Through on Elvish Mystic, which ends up doing 35 to Tom thanks to his 36-37 Hydra. After that, he attacks Sam with 3 of his creatures, so Sam is forced into blocking all 3. After blocks, Sam sacrifices 2 to Carrion Feeder, triggering Goblin and making Voracious Hydra slightly smaller, making it so it deals only 33 damage after Trample. After combat, John casts a Primordial Hydra for X equals 4, and end of turn, Brimaz triggers to proliferate before the turn is passed. Sam plays a plains, casts a Vraska, Betrayal Sting, using her -2 to turn Primordial Hydra into a treasure, and passes the turn. End of turn, Extra casts Anguished Unmaking on Voracious Hydra, and John casts Path to Exile on Adeline for passing the turn. Extra goes to combat and attacks John with all of his knights, triggering his commander and dealing 10 damage. After combat, he casts Silverwing Squadron and forces Worm Paladin from his graveyard and passes. John goes to combat, attacking Sam with all of his creatures. Sam is unable to survive, but he does take out Gwenna on his way out. After combat, John casts Primordial Hydra, followed by Finhorn Elves before passing the turn. Extra plays a Plains, casts Distant Melody, naming Knight, drawing 5 cards, goes to combat, and attacks with 2 creatures, triggering their abilities, making a Knight, and looting a card. John then takes 11 damage. After combat, Extra casts Universal Automaton, followed by Changeling Oncast, and passes. John plays a Forest, activates Polukranos to have it transform, goes to combat, when Extra casts Path to Exile on Primordial Hydra. John decides to not attack and passes the turn. Extra plays a Swamp, casts Knight's Charge, and attacks with all of his creatures, triggering Charge, leaving John at 2 after blocks. He then passes the turn. John takes his final draw, plays a Forest, and concedes.